Despite a comprehensive land reform program, we have not made significant progress in addressing this issue, but we must consider that failure to resolve the land issue in a just and equitable manner will threaten the stability of our democratic nation.
The problem with land reform is it's the state who's stealing people's land, and it's the state who is diverting the budget that was meant to be used for land reform to partners that provide kickbacks.
Scenes of protest outside the Cape Town offices of the National Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. Clearly, there is extreme discontent in this department, judging from the posters being waved. The culprits? Senior officials tasked with gatekeeping land reform in the Western Cape.
She must go! The state of this province has degenerated. We are not meeting our targets. We are not delivering services adequately and effectively. We are not following proper procedures that are in the demand management plan of the department.
Attached to that, there is a tendency to actually not implement the policies in line as they are adopted by the management.
The dysfunctionalism in the department is a symptom of a much deeper problem countrywide. In July 2017, in the wake of press reports and ongoing special assignment exclusive investigations into elite capture of land reform, former President Jacob Zuma issued a proclamation. He ordered the Special Investigation Unit to probe the following farms: Nirwanda, Appelkloof, Wonderhoek and Montpiquet in the Western Cape, and Bekenvlei and Mike's Chicken in Limpopo. These state-owned farms represent merely the surface of the cesspool that has been estimated to cost government billions of rands in wasteful or corrupt expenditure on land reform. But it wasn't always like this.
When we set out on land reform in the early to mid-1990s, at the time of democracy, there was a lot of optimism that the state would buy land or assist people to buy land, and they would use it productively and improve their livelihoods. And it didn't work out like that.
Professor Ruth Hall is one of 10 members of President Cyril Ramaphosa's expert advisory panel appointed to assess the problems of land reform.
Companies and individuals who are politically connected are getting lucrative contracts from the state to take over land reform farms and farm them with state subsidies. The people who are ostensibly signed up to be beneficiaries don't control those processes, they don't have oversight of the finances, and they don't receive dividends. In this sense, it's not land reform.
In 2015, we first exposed this alleged elite capture of land reform. We focused on Nirwanda, a grape farm in the Western Cape's Hex River Valley.
Farming is not about colour and all sorts of things and politics. A farmer has to go and deal with his land, his or her land. And that's what we are all about here, to farm and build trust among ourselves and the farm workers in the valley.
Nirwanda could have been a beacon of land reform success. Instead, it has become a symbol of its failures. The farm falls under the Department of Rural Development's policy of Proactive Land Strategy, or PLAS. This is a policy whereby the department buys farms in distress and provides emerging farmers with long-term leases, funding and skills training in order to make the farms self-sufficient and profitable. In 2012, government bought Nirwanda from a company called Quickvest. This was a shelf company for a Dutch multinational fruit exporter called Safe and its BEE partner Bono. Safe had bought the farm for just under 7 million and sold it to government 5 years later for over 20 million. But Safe never left Nirwanda. Through Bono, it entrenched itself as a strategic partner and requested government funding for recapitalising the farm.
One needs to drill deeper to find the reasoning and the justification for a company farm selling 2 portions in 2012 and then re-entering the equation with a business plan to do the further development and applying for recap.
On July the 25th, 2013, a farming community called the Big Five was appointed as the Nirwanda beneficiary by the National Land Acquisition Committee. But 5 years later, despite desperate appeals to the department, they still have no lease, no funding, and no dividends from the harvest.
We've been without water, without electricity. We can take it, but the workers cannot take it, because at the end of the day, they do not have any income.
The permanent farm workers have been forced to find jobs on other farms, labouring for less money.
We have
been on the farm for many years. For us to be like this today is not right. We are human beings, yet we have to sit in darkness.
When I went to visit Nirwanda, what I saw was very distressing. Firstly, what was clear is that incredibly valuable vineyards were withering and dying. This is years' worth and tens of millions of rands worth of capital investment going down the drain.
So how did it get to this? As part of the policy, land beneficiaries must choose a strategic partner or agribusiness to mentor them. But the Big Five accuse the department of imposing SAFE and Bono on them and allege that when they challenged the multinationals' lack of financial transparency and the broken promises, they were stonewalled.
Strategic partners have been promising to come and renovate the houses. They have been promising to do this and that and training and all that, but they are not doing it.
We also called for them to present us with the financial statements and all this kind of things, but they just refused.
In 2017, in the wake of a forensic report that incriminated the multinational in dodgy deals, SAFE and Bono left Nirwanda and several other farms in a shambles. We exposed this in our recent broadcast. The department has consistently ignored special assignments, repeated requests for interviews. But we know their response from this internal email sent by the acting chief director of the National Department, Rendani Sadiki, who instructs the department to sort out the mess and implement an action plan by the end of February. A memorandum also reveals that in addition to advertising for a new investor, the department is intent on getting rid of the Big Five. The question is why?
Certain people at a certain political level felt that maybe we were the wrong people. Maybe they felt that these people cannot be manipulated.
There will always be external forces that are able to come between, because the rule and divide, it's always there.
This guy just came into the farm, threatened us and told us that you came here through a corrupt process, and if I would do an investigation, it would be a very messy investigation. I said, excuse us?
This was in February 2014. The official was Dumisani Lupungela, the department's chief of security, and a former controversial head of national intelligence in both the Western and Eastern Cape, before his dismissal due to his association with ex-mafioso boss Vito Palazzolo.
We applied for this farm and it was given to us through a legal process, and we feel that we are fighting for what is rightfully ours.
Perhaps the biggest indictment of SAFE and Bono's legacy on Nirwanda is literally on the ground, in the creche that the multinational and its BEE partner had undertaken to improve.
I've returned to the creche that I first visited in October 2015, and it's absolutely heartbreaking to see that conditions have not only remained the same, but have actually deteriorated for the children. Instead of a playground, there's an arid piece of sand on which they can play. Inside the creche, they have to play on a cold concrete floor. There is inadequate bedding, there's inadequate nutrition, there's inadequate hygiene. It makes a mockery not only of early childhood development, but of worker empowerment and land reform as a whole.
Momentum. We're all born with it. No matter where life takes us, Momentum protects us and repairs what's been damaged. Momentum Car Insurance gives you up to 30% cash back on your premiums every year, even if you claim. SMS CAR to 42024 or speak to your financial advisor for a quote. That's why we're here for you.
Years go by and new faces are born. New villains. And new drama queens. We look back and reflect on the memories that serve us. A tight bond molding us together, creating stories that will last forever. Make your evenings memorable. Weekdays on SABC 1. Mzansi for sure.
Azikho izinto ezibuyisela ubudlelwane emumva njengamanga nezimfihlo.
Ungakhulumi amanga, khuluma iqiniso.
Uthi wathi dlaka kanye kuma Edmond and kungenxa into wena wayithethayo.
Usandile unamanga.
Wabamba red-handed embhedeni. Bedeni. Benqunu. Ngixelele Edmond lana ubungixela nalo wawathini kuwe.
Ungaphuthelwa umxazululi wezothando kuNyanyan njalo ngoLesibili ngo6 ntambama la ku SABC 1 Mzansi for sure.
Former Bosasa Chief Operations Officer Angelo Agrizi continued his testimony.
Eskom officials continued at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry into state capture yesterday.
Corruption is an equal opportunity employer, but the alleged elite capture of our most emotive and contested resource, namely land, is a particularly complex form of corruption. So says Dr. Annika Claassen, the Director of Land and Accountability Research Centre at UCT.
Thank God we've got the Constitution, and thank God we've got the courts, because clearly our politicians really don't prioritise rural people being dispossessed. You know, the elite enrichment, the diversion of resources, the incapacity of parts of government, people in government being on the take. I think unless those things are identified as the problem, they'll never be solved.
For 5 years we've been doing research looking at government's land redistribution program, and the pattern that we found was very worrying. We found that across the board nobody had leases. The only cases where substantial public money was coming onto the farms was where there were strategic partners. And the money was going not to the beneficiaries but to the companies that were the strategic partners.
It was in the Eastern Cape that Safe and Bono allegedly developed a model of enrichment in the name of land reform that would be replicated on Nirwanda and other farms under their control.
We've picked up a pattern which I call farm flipping, which is where big corporates start to buy up farms, they then sell them onto the state at inflated prices, and then they set up a BEE holding company, and then they get the farms back from the state for free as strategic partners.
In 2006, Sunland Farms in the Addo region were purchased by a shelf company called Altivex, one of hundreds of special purpose vehicles used by both Safe and Bono, making it difficult to trace ownership of farms back to Safe and their holding company in Mauritius.
There is no transparent process of understanding the relationship between these companies, the shelf companies, the BEE companies, the financial institutions, and the capital that's coming in, both from public sector and private sector.
A Windeed search on Altivex provides not much more than its registration number. But the shelf company shares the same registration number with Safe Farm Exports, one of the multinationals' many agribusinesses controlling the supply chain from the farm to fruit stores worldwide. Safe was founded in 1997 by Anton de Vries, together with fellow Dutch national Irvin Boland.
It is a corporation with international investors, a strong Dutch component. They pride themselves on having a strong, what they call BEE, Black Empowerment component, which have made them one of the preferred strategic partners of the government. Safe is clearly the main player, but when you hear of Safe, it's likely that in the next sentence you'll hear of Bono.
And agriculture has become the new green gold.
The World Bank projects that within 15 years, this will be a 1 trillion industry. And that is why we see the big players participating from far afield and also locally.
Multinational companies are basically fleecing the state.
In 2006, government purchased Sunland for 15 million. Bono was then brought onto the farm to supposedly mentor the farm worker beneficiaries. The company received almost 9 million rand in government funds to manage the farm. Safe built and took ownership of the packhouse on the farm, which meant that the multinational controlled all aspects of the supply chain. This would enable it to buy the fruit from its own packhouse at a reduced price and export it at a premium.
Often the strategic partners have downstream processing or packaging facilities. So they essentially want to gain access to free land that's owned by the state, where they produce with state subsidies and then sell to themselves.
And now Safe, through Bono CEO Evans Nirwanda, is allegedly trying to conduct shady deals on Sunland, pressurizing the department to buy the packhouse for 50 million rand for the exclusive use of the farms managed by Bono. I contacted a department official who agreed to a telephone interview on condition of anonymity.
What is happening now is that Safe through Evans are pushing for us to buy this thing for the three farmers. They want 50 million. They bought it 10 years ago for 15.
The farms managed by Bono are Sunland, Green Gables and Kangela. On Kangela, the farm workers are supposed to be owners, but Kangela has been mired in scandal which Special Assignment exposed in 2017.
After abusing and making money, they want to list this thing back from us.
In addition to having a large footprint on state farms, Safe has ties to Old Mutual's Future Growth Agri Fund. A central link between the two is UFF, an asset management company established by former Safe founder Owen Boland and former Safe director Duncan Vink. UFF advises Future Growth on what farms to invest in and what companies should run the farm as strategic partners. Safe is allegedly the preferred operator on several of these farms, but Future Growth insists that Safe is only one of its 10 farm operators and that Future Growth has no ties to state-owned farms. But well-placed sources name another player who appears to be party to the negotiations over the sale of the Sunland Packhouse. He is UFF director and a former agronomist at Safe, Andre Botha.
Are you still giving much of the information that is needed there?
This email between Safe's Quinton Scott, UFF's Botha, and an official in the Department of Rural Development concerning the financial statements of the packhouse raises questions about the relationship. Safe, Bono and Botha declined to be interviewed.
The anguish, the weight, and the frustration as family members of the ill-fated flight ET302 seek answers.
Otherwise, if we will not find, the person will stay missing to the rest of their life.
Watch African Perspective as we bring you exclusive stories on those affected from Kenya.
We understand in total at least 22 people died in that crash who worked for the United Nations. 6 of them worked for the UN here in Nairobi.
Ethiopia.
A tent has been set up at the crash site for friends and relatives of the victims of the plane crash to do memorial services if they want to.
And Lesotho, telling the African story from the African perspective.
What do you need when you cast your vote?
We need to have education.
We need a new model.
We need more justice.
We want to be employers.
We must clean up the ANC out of our system.
We are going to deal with corruption.
That's what we need to do.
For the answers, don't miss the all-new season of The Big Debate every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC News Channel 404 and SABC 2, starting 10th of March.
Five years after the Big Five were approved as beneficiaries on Nirwanda, all production on this once flourishing farm has ceased.
After the departure of Ubono and Safe, the farm was left without any management systems, and it dumped us all into a cesspool of hunger, frustration, and divisions.
The multinational exited in 2017 in the wake of a damning forensic audit that incriminated Safe, Bono and specific officials for violating the Public Finance Management Act, such as former Chief Director Babalwa Magoda and former Deputy Director General Vusi Mashlangu. Published in 2016, it has yet to be released publicly, but Special Assignment gained exclusive access. The report recommended that criminal investigations be conducted into officials and Safe and Bono. It calculated that the multinational and its BEE partner owed the farm over 3 million rand in dividends for grape harvests since 2013.
We know that government currently is in possession of the financial statements of the previous strategic partner. Well, so much has been told to us. We haven't seen them. We've requested to see them. They haven't been forthcoming with the information. And our case is quite simple. If any money is due to the beneficiaries, it ought to be paid to them. If need be, we will take appropriate legal action.
Safe and Bono's previous track record on many of its other farms is also under the spotlight, like Wonderhoek, Montpiquet and Appelkloof, the very farms being investigated by the Special Investigation Unit.
I do not know at what point will the SIU give us what is due to us. Because at the end of the day, we cannot just continue investigating and so on and not deal with those people who mess up.
In fact, no official in the department has been charged for corruption, even though former Minister Nkwinti himself was implicated in a 2 million rand bribe over the dodgy 97 million rand sale of Bekenflay to his alleged cronies. Instead, in February 2018, President Ramaphosa appointed him Minister of Water and Sanitation. His security head, Dumisani Lupungela, joined him. But back in May 2017, almost a year before they were redeployed, as this internal memorandum confirms, a directive purportedly sent by the official who oversaw the Nirwanda investigation instructed that all future forensic investigations must be diverted to Lupungela's security unit. The department did suspend former Chief Director Babalwa Magoda, and she appeared before a disciplinary hearing, but she was subsequently reinstated in the department. And although he had previously been dismissed for his role in the Bekenflay scandal, Vusi Mahlangu has since been appointed to the Office of the Public Protector, the very office that in 2017 was also tasked with investigating the Department of Rural Development and former Minister Nkwinti's role in the Bekenflay scandal. Magora declined to be interviewed. Mahlangu, Nkwinti and Lupungela did not respond to Special Assignment's requests for comment.
All of these issues that we've discussed can be remedied. These are fixable problems. With proper oversight and leadership, we can fix them.
What is happening here, it depends on the government's political will.
Until then, Nirwanda continues to deteriorate, and the remaining 4 members of the Big Five have become victims of theft and vandalism.
They took everything.
Everything. My wardrobe was empty. They even burned the carpets. I don't know. They took my bedspreads, my bedding. It changed. It kind of changed my life.
But they are determined to stay.
We are not scared. We have no fear because this is our house.
At times you can be angry, but at some point you need to be a bigger person. You have to reason and be a leader.
With this team, we cannot be broken. We went through the worst, and we are still here. All that we want is our right that was given to us on the 25th of July 2013.